name is Oren. I'm the lead teacher of the Academy of Hospitality and Tourism at Robert Morgan Educational Center. It is my distinct pleasure this morning to introduce you to your morning facilitator. Please help me in welcoming Professor Oren Hertz up to the front of the room.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. How are you? Good. Yeah, you guys all right? You having fun? Yes. Yeah, good. I think you had a better morning than me. I estimate. So here's what happened this morning. So I'm getting ready to come here and see you guys, and I'm walking around my apartment and I'm texting and walking, right? So, because I'm trying to multitask, right? So I'm texting and walking, and you guys are better at this, that's for sure. Walking around texting, next thing you know, I hit my head on a door frame in my apartment. And it hurt because I was like this, and it was pretty bad. I'm like, what the hell? Where did that come from? Now, I've lived in my own place for 13 years. This door frame came out of nowhere. I'm telling you, it was scary. So that's how I started my day today. I'm like, wow, that's going to be an interesting day. But I'm here now, and my head is okay, I think. I'm not bleeding, so that's okay. And I'm happy to be here, and thank you for being here. My presentation today is going to be most likely different than what you've heard so far. And if different could be my middle name, I would take it. And so I'm proud to share with you my experience today and my journey. And part of it is a personal journey that led me to a better understanding of what is the mindfulness, what is mindful meditation, and how it can help us be better students, better teachers, better leaders in the industry, and better citizens in general. So, before we begin, I'd like to share with you a little bit about Johnson & Wales University, where I teach. I think you probably know, but if not, you'll learn now. The university was established in 1914, so a few years ago, right? Over 100 years ago. We have 4 campuses: Providence, Denver, Charlotte, and North Miami. I teach at the North Miami campus. I've been there for 9 years. We are private, but not for profit, so we're a non-profit university, regionally accredited, and our flagship schools are culinary, hospitality, and business. I'm a faculty member of the School of Hospitality. I worked in the hospitality industry for many years prior to teaching in a variety of leadership positions. And then in 2008, I started teaching and could not find the exit since then, because I absolutely love it. I love interacting with students, and I love doing what I do. In 2009, a year after I started teaching, this is my mother. And in 2009, with no warning, she unfortunately passed away in a different country. And let me preface and share the following with you. And this is a bit of a personal story that I'd like to share with you. She was my best friend, my very, very best friend. If you can imagine that one person in your life that is your confidant, the person you can talk to, the person you trust, that you never ever have a fight with, and they just get you. That was my mom. And she was suddenly gone, and I didn't get to say goodbye. And that's something so painful that it changes you as a person. And I do not wish this sadness and pain on anyone. But I'm here to tell you today how this changed me, and how her passing got me to where I am today, into a journey that is really interesting to me and interesting to many that I share with, how we can be better people in the wake of pain and tragedy. And so, this is how it started. I went on a quest to understand what happened. How did I lose her so early? Why didn't I get to say goodbye? And that quest led me into the unknown, if you will. The areas in our lives that we don't fully understand and sometimes even afraid of. But the results were amazing. And I could directly apply it into teaching, into learning, and into being who I am as a human being, how I interact with the world. And it changed me as a person. And it's a good change. And I have to tell you, it's a good change because for a year after her death, all I could feel is sadness. And it was so weird to me. Because I'm one of those lucky people that wakes up in the morning just excited about the day. Annoying, like this, annoyingly excited about the day. Tail wagging, let's conquer, what's going on? What's happening in the world? Just naturally happy. And I feel very lucky to be that way. But then I felt sadness. And sadness that I'm not used to. I don't know how to deal with it. I don't know what to do with it. So I turned into many spiritual teachers to have an understanding of where I am now, what is happening, and how I can be happy again. And I have to tell you that since then I've been even happier. And let me share some things with you. This is my daughter, by the way. Hold on. Yes, can you see a resemblance? We don't really look alike. She's my dog, right? But those of you animal lovers in the room, okay, good, you get it. You get it when I say my daughter, right? You get it. Those of you who are not, you're like, okay, you're weird. Weird is good. That's okay. I'll take it as a compliment. I purposely put her picture here to soften the blow of what I'm going to start the presentation with. And I'm claiming the following. Remember, I'm a teacher, right? We can't teach anyone anything. That's one of the first lessons that I've learned. Interesting, right? Especially coming from a teacher. So you're thinking, you probably hit your head really hard this morning to stand here in front of us and tell us, well, you can't teach anyone anything. What the hell do you mean? Well, let me tell you what I mean. Let me give you a scenario. How many of you drive? Okay. And if you don't drive, you ride a car, right? You drive with friends. Ever took 95 going somewhere, right? Can we agree as a consensus that it's an awful road? Right? It is. People are crazy on 95. I've decided long time ago. I've been on this road for 20 years going to work. It's crazy. And oftentimes I think when I drive on 95, you see people cut each other off and just acting really aggressively on the road. And their intention, if you really think about it, if someone is cutting someone off, right, and then they flip them off and road rage and everything that comes with it, their intention is to teach the other person a lesson, right? And that's what they feel sometimes. Oh, I cut him off. I taught him a lesson. I showed him. Now, let's think about it this way. See, some of you are catching my drift here. Let's think about the guy that supposedly was supposed to learn the lesson. Coming home after that big lesson on the road, seeing his honey and telling him or her, honey, I had a rough day today, but I've learned a valuable lesson. Someone cut me on the road and flipped me off, and man, did I learn not to do that again. When and where does this happen? In what parallel universe, right? It doesn't exist. We have the illusion that we can teach others, but all we can do, and when I say teach, it's not just teachers, it's everyone in your friendships and relationships, parents and brothers and sisters. And in the future, as you become professionals in this industry, please remember that we can't teach anyone anything, but we can lead them to knowledge. We can lead them to knowledge. Leading to knowledge, if we go back to the road rage example, is not necessarily cutting people off, right? It's just not going to do anything. It's just a waste of energy. And if you ask me, so what's the alternative? On the road, let it go. I'm not here to teach you how to drive, but just let it go. That's the best thing you can do. Why? If you remember that you can't teach anyone anything, so why waste this energy? How is it going to help you? Except the immediate release of you feel better about yourself. Oh, I showed him or her. It's not doing anything. So this is lesson number 1, believe it or not, that I've learned from my mom's passing. I know it's a little weird, but there's a connection there, and you'll see. We're going to get into mindfulness and meditation in a minute. Briefly, I want to share some information with you about you guys, which is Generation Z. A few interesting facts. Of course, you are digital natives, so unlike me, you will most likely not hit your head on the wall while texting, right? This is something that I do because I'm not a digital native. Expectation is connectedness, especially online, and so there's a lot of connectivity online. I'm sure you guys can relate to that. If it is online, it is true, which is of course not true, but it's a perception, right? Time management is based on necessity. There is a general fear of missing out. And by the way, when we talk about studies of generations, this is generally, right? If you do not afraid of missing out, it doesn't mean that you're an outcast of the generation. Don't feel that way. These are just generalities of studies of the generations and what researchers have found. Time and space are fluid. They talk a little bit about the work environment. Interestingly enough, 28% of Generation Z prefers the classic work environment as opposed to 45% for the millennials. So the work environment is changing too. This is leading to somewhere, so just bear with me for a minute. And who are we? Who are your professors? Who are your teachers and who are your future professors at colleges and universities? 1, 2, 3 generations above you. Could be baby boomers, Generation X like mine, or Gen Y. And so your teachers grew up in a different area, just like, or era rather, just like your parents, just a different time. Just like my dad. My dad is 2 generations above me. And so when I listen to music, he's like, what is this noise? Now mind you, I listen to very soft rock, like Pink Floyd, for example, or Sting, which is really soft, but to him it's a big noise, right? So that usually happens with different generations. There's disconnect between the groups of people. It's just a natural progression of people. Questions we ask ourselves: why do we teach? How do we teach? Are we connecting with our students? Do we see teaching as an improvement of a lifelong journey? And that's something really important to me as a teacher and really as a person operating in this world. I believe that if I do something, do it right. Go all the way or go home. Or don't do it at all. And that's a philosophy. It's a philosophy that I want to transfer to you guys with the hope that it's something that will resonate with you and you understand the importance of really making a difference every single day. And that's something we'll get into here in a minute. Let me move forward just for the sake of time and talk about mindfulness. So in the title of my presentation, I talk about mindfulness and mindful meditation. So what is mindfulness? By definition, I'm a researcher, I teach, and so I had to bring in some research information. It is a growing movement, seeks to recapture the essence that soul and spirit can bring to the modern workplace and its environment. This is by Bowman and Deal, who are excellent authors. They wrote the book Leading with Soul. I highly recommend it. It's a really interesting book to read. We have an incredible opportunity to elevate the learning experience and better connect with each other if we are mindful of our surrounding and purpose in the classroom. But the big question is, how do we do it? How do we make that connection? I showed you the different generations. We have an understanding that between the teacher and the student, there's a generational gap. How do we bring it together? And what does this mean here? Spirit, soul and spirit, right? We can't see it, we can't feel it, we can't touch it. This is not soul or spirit, right? This is a device that, if you're lucky enough like me, you could kind of use it, kind of, sort of. 3 buttons, still a little bit complicated sometimes. So let's understand this a little bit more. Mindfulness has been described as a willingness to open to whether unfolds a compassionate curiosity is free of judgment. This is by Kabat-Zinn, free from judgment. When we talk about freeing ourselves from judgment, this is a big request. It's a big challenge for every person in this room. And here's why. Because if I ask you to free yourself of judgment and be mindful and focus on the moment, I'm asking you to go against your biology. Human beings judge because we have to. If you trace our ancestry up until today, we instinctively judge every situation, particularly every person, to defend ourselves. Think about a stranger you meet, maybe late at night walking down a parking lot. the first thing you do, and you're not even thinking about it, is judge this person. Is this a friend or a foe? It's a defense mechanism. It is in the tenets of biology. We can't just not judge. And here I'm asking you, telling you, hey, listen, how about we'll be free from judgment? It's a lifelong journey to be free of judgment. It's not an easy thing. It doesn't come to us naturally. But it's possible if you're conscientious and mindful about it. If you enter a situation and look at a person in front of you, would it be an employer, an employee, a teacher, a friend, a colleague, a date, whatever the case might be, and you free yourself of judgment and you say, okay, bring me your best. Show me what you got. Then you can really paint a picture about a person. Have you ever met someone and you became friends later on, and you admitted to them, hey, you know, when I first met you, I thought you are blank. Ever happened, right? And if it happened to you, you know, and when I say blank, you know, you're nice, you're bad, you're unkind, you're kind, whatever the case might be. It is because we judge, we immediately judge. That's just what we do. I invite you to work on that. I've been working on that, and it's a lifelong work, by the way. This is not like, okay, we're going to leave this room together and we're going to stop judging people. No, that's just not how it's going to work. It's going to take a little bit of effort and time, definitely time. Two key components are identified as the hallmark of mindfulness, is the ability to regulate one's attention and an orientation of one's experience that is open, accepting, and curious. Let's focus real quick on our attention, ability to regulate our attention. And let's think about our mind, because our mind is a very powerful and strange tool. It's an organ that is still studied in medicine and science and will probably be studied for years because we don't fully understand our minds. But how often and how many times do we trail off? Even in conversations, not necessarily in a presentation like this, even in one-on-one conversation, we just trail off. Not even looking at our phones or anything, we just look straight at a person's face and we just trail off. Our mind are taking us to somewhere else. What am I going to have for dinner? Did I feed the cat? Maybe I didn't. Who is this person again? Right? This happens. It happens to us all the time. And again, if it happens to you, don't feel bad. You're not different. We're all the same. We all do that constantly and all the time. Why? Because our mind is a mechanism that keeps talking to us and keeps making noise in our heads, if you will. Mindfulness is the practice of shutting it down and being present in that moment, because that moment is so important, or it could be very important. Would it be a teachable moment? Would it be a moment of compassion that someone really needed your attention? They needed your ear and they needed your reaction and your undivided reaction and attention to that situation. And again, what I'm proposing to you today takes practice. I come here with this practice, and I'd like to share it with you so you can start practicing it early on in your life and your careers. Once you shut the mind down, you can really focus on the situation at hand, on where you are right now, what is happening. Because everything, time and space are malleable. They keep moving. And time will not come back. And everything is changing and nothing is permanent. Just yesterday, I finished we're towards our academic year, and we finished one of our meetings for one of our clubs and organizations on campus where I'm the faculty advisor. And on the drive home, I have about 40-minute drive home, I reflected on it. And I reflected on the fall trimester and the winter trimester and the spring trimester now that is finishing up. I said, wow, that was an amazing year. And we had some good times and we had some stressful times, but it will not be the same. Although next year I will most likely still advise this club, it won't be the same. So enjoying that moment is extremely important. And when you are mindful of regulating your attention to be present in that moment, you will really enjoy life. Easier said than done. I completely understand that. But I'm proposing that you start thinking in those terms. At the core of mindfulness lies at least two characters of strength: self-regulation and curiosity. So we talked about self-regulation, focusing on that moment. But also be curious. Because if you are focusing on that moment, on that conversation, on that one-on-one with the person in front of you, then you can be curious about what's happening with them and what's happening to them in their lives. And if you are curious, you're going to learn so much from so many people. You know, I was born in a different country. I can tell you a lot about my culture and where it came from. That's something different. And you came from a different place. Every single person, maybe 5 or 6 or 8 of you, or 10 of you were born here in Miami. But you were born in different places in Miami. So that could be really interesting. Your neighborhood, your upbringings, your favorite restaurant, your favorite food. Perhaps you're from a different culture or heritage. That's fascinating. Ask questions. Be curious. Focus on that core of mindfulness. Pardon me. So as lifelong learners and as lifelong teachers, how can we elevate this? We have to start with a caring attitude. We have to care about what we do. As teachers, as students, it is extremely important for us to care. And care, I will talk about it in a minute, comes from a very special place in our body. It's in our heart, not our mind. Something to keep in mind. Follow your heart, work on quieting your mind. It's not easy, but work on it. Find alternative solutions. Be a flexible person. That's something I highly recommend. It's been working very well for me. Just be a flexible person. Because nothing is permanent anyway, and so you might as well be flexible. Maintain a balance of whatever you do in life. Make sure that it is highly balanced. That if you work, that you have time off. That if you study, that you stop studying at some point and you do something else aside of studying. Right? Always maintain that balance. Teaching is for the greater good. Learning is for the greater good. Keep this in mind. This is something that can help you as future college students if you understand and remember that there's a bigger than you reason for you being in a classroom. I try to remind myself of that when I teach, every time. Learning stimulates the heart and mind. This is something that we know by now. You know, if we don't learn, we remain stagnant. So learning is a stimulation tool. It's something that can really elevate us. And developing a classroom environment of appreciation. So this is students and professors. If you enter the classroom as a student with the appreciation in mind that you're going to learn something new, even if your teacher or your professor is not your favorite or not the best in your mind, you can still take something out of it. In between the lines, within an hour, 2-hour lecture, you can get something out of it. And if you have that mindset and attitude, I promise you that you will learn new things. I can't tell you that throughout my 3 degrees at a university, every teacher was excellent, every professor was excellent. They weren't. Honestly, some of them sucked. But even the ones that are not good, because I had that attitude of I want to learn, I picked something out of it. And that's big. Marianne Williamson says that it is our light, not our darkness, that most frightened us. And that's something that really resonated with me when I read it the first time. We have an opportunity as human beings to not only be mindful, but also influence others by being mindful. And when I say, by the way, being mindful, and when we talk about meditation, although I meditate on regular basis, on daily basis, meditation doesn't mean that you have to sit down in silence and, in a certain position. That's not what meditation is all about. In fact, if you read more about meditation, you'll find that there are dozens, probably hundreds of ways to meditate. I will tell you the following, and this may concern you a little bit. I meditate while driving sometimes. Speaking of 95, right? I'm one of those drivers, the slow drivers. Now, how do you do it? I don't close my eyes. I have to be mindful of the road and what's happening, but I will put certain music that will trail my mind off to where I want it to go. That special, fantastic place, that beautiful place that calms me down. I take the 40 minutes commute that I have every day and take the time to completely quiet down. I try not to talk on the phone. I just want that me time. Whatever me time, whatever helps you quiet your mind and feel better about yourself and connect with your heart, that's your meditation. How you do it? Plenty of ways. You could do it by walking, by the way. There's mindful meditations that include walking. You can listen to music. You just sit quietly. And I do that too at home sometimes. Sit in complete silence. And it helps me. I can't tell you how much it helps me to quiet the mind. So whatever helps you. And there's plenty of ways for you to explore and learn meditation later on, outside of this presentation, if this is what you wanted to do. When we talk about our light and not our darkness that most frightens us, it is our ability to make a difference every day in someone else's life. And we underestimate how much of a difference we can make by just saying one thing. And it's normally acts of kindness. So let me give you an example. You see a friend or even someone who you don't know, and you look at their hair and you say, wow, this is really nice. Your hairdo is really nice. I'm not one to talk, not much left up here. So I do get jealous sometimes when I see a really nice hair. What is stopping us from giving this person that compliment? Hey, your hair is really nice. How many times, and I bet, I'm willing to bet, that you were in situations like that you kind of missed out. You're like, she's got nice hair. And then you didn't say anything, you kept silent. But think about the receiving end. Think about you, and some of the ladies and gentlemen in this room spent quite a bit of time this morning getting your hair done, I'm sure. I did not, clearly. Right. But if you did, and you get that compliment, how good does it make you feel? Why? Because someone shared their light with you. Someone just gave you that compliment. Hey, your hair looks awesome today. Oh, thanks. Feels good. I mean, I don't know a person that gets a compliment and is like, oh, that just feels like crap. Don't give me this compliment. I don't like it. Right? We like it. We like receiving compliments, so why not giving them? I see strangers and I compliment about their hair or their dress or their jacket or whatever I think they look good at. Why? Because they deserve it. Because I've learned not to be afraid of my light. Because we have it inside us, so why not share it? What is stopping us? What is stopping us is some preconceived fears of don't say this, never do that. You may insult the person, and they may think that you're coming on to them. Well, if you say it in a very certain way, there's ways to say things, right? It's like, hey, I really like your hair. Right now, that's a bit creepy, as opposed to, hey, nice hair. Right? So you know how to regulate it and how to say it in a way that is not creepy and not in a way that you're trying to come onto them, but merely share your light and become that person that shares the light and not hold it inside. This is a bit nerdy. Let me just share this briefly with you. This is part of my doctoral dissertation where I'm trying to find the perception of students, professors, teaching attributes, what students basically like about their teachers at a college or university. I conducted a survey. So far I have 62 respondents, and the emerging data is that caring comes above knowledge, interactive, or professional. Which leads me to a huge question: what is caring? And what I found so far, and I think you'd agree with me, that caring comes from a very special place in the heart and not the mind. You can't think about caring about someone else. I mean, you can think about it, but if you execute it, it comes from a deep place inside here. And there is literally intelligence in the heart that communicates with the limbic brain and makes you feel that sense of caring. Caring for your students, caring for your teachers, caring for your brothers and sisters, caring for your friends, your parents. It comes from a very deep place. It interests me because I didn't expect it. I thought students would be more interested in professors that are interactive or professional or knowledgeable, and I have other qualifiers. But this is really what they care about. And this is just half of my survey. My survey will have hopefully 120 participants. And it'll be interesting to see the other half and what they're saying about caring. So I just wanted to share this with you. So to conclude, let's see how we can apply all this. We should view teaching and learning as a higher purpose. I mentioned it before. We should reflect and find out why we care about the things we do. And if we don't care about them or we don't care for them, then leave. Then just don't do it. Now, I'm not telling you to leave school because you don't care about school. You will find, right? Don't get the wrong message, please. You will find within school, within college, within a university, you will find something that will make you care, that will make you feel a sense of care. You need to search for it. And if you search for it, you will find it. We should accept that just because we can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I talked about a few things here today that are a bit, you can't touch them, right? You can't feel it. Like I'm feeling this, or our phones, or whatever the case may be. Keep in mind, there's things that we don't know, that we don't feel, that we don't see, that we can't touch, but we feel, rather. We should trust our own intuition and follow our hearts. Never fails. Never fails. Every time where I make a decision that is against what my intuition or my heart told me, it's a bad decision. So you know what I started doing a long time ago? Just not do it. If I try to make a decision and it doesn't feel right, I can't describe it, right? You can probably agree with me. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't feel right, then I don't do it. But if it feels right, absolutely. Why? Because it comes from here. I trust it. We should read and educate ourselves on the intelligence of the heart. It's relatively new and emergent science, and connect with our levels of emotional intelligence, or for short is EI. We all have that. It's just a matter of developing it. It's kind of like a muscle. Those of you who go to the gym and exercise, you have to exercise this muscle, if you will. You have to keep thinking about it, studying it, reading it. There's plenty of information online in this day and age to learn more about EI and the intelligence of the heart. We should find peace, balance, and harmony in our lives. Easier said than done, nonetheless important to us. I know you're high school students, and some adults may think that your life are not complicated, but I'll say the following: your lives are complicated. And I noticed, you know why? Because I was a high school student. And I remember, and it wasn't easy. In my 40s, I know you're shocked. Oh, you're in your 40s, you look so young. Thanks. I have a different set of problems. But it doesn't mean that I did not have a set of problems when I was 16, 17, 18 years old. And so we all have that. And if we learn how to find peace and balance and harmony in our lives are going to be easier. We're going to be happier. Oftentimes, students stop me in the hallway and they ask me, Professor, what is it about you? Why do you smile all the time? How do you stay happy? Some even ask me, what are you on? I'm going to tell you, I'm on nothing. Absolutely nothing. Water. That's the most. In fact, most I do is water. It's just because I constantly seek that peace and balance. Do I have bad days? Yes, of course I do. Of course I do. Do I have worries in my life? Of course I do. I'm not exempt. No one is exempt. It's how you deal with it. And do I get pissy at times? Yes, I do. And I try to do it in my own privacy. Because people around me should not feel what I feel. You know, this whole drama is absolutely unnecessary. It is so much better to deal with it in privacy, deal with it however you deal with it, but on the outside and when you interact with people, share that light, share that peace, that harmony, that love. It will attract people to you. And when I say that, it's not necessarily in a romantic way, but I'm saying it in a way of you as future leaders in our industry. You as future citizens of the world. You want to be surrounded by people. You want to be just like my mother, whom I, by now, I love very much. And on her tombstone, it says what a wonderful person she was. People approached me, people I did not know, approached me during her funeral and said, you have no idea how special your mom was. And I said, I thought I had an idea, but apparently she had a wonderful impact on many people. She taught me this. And I'm teaching you this too. I know I said earlier you can't teach anyone anything. At least I'm leading you to this knowledge. I'm sharing with you that example and how it worked out for me. And it works out for me very well. I'm going to leave you with this. We have an opportunity every day to make a difference in someone else's life. I invite you to do it. It doesn't cost you anything. And when we talk about making a difference in someone's life, it's not necessarily earth-shattering. It could be a compliment. It could be a hand. It could be a friend who's upset and crying, just sitting next to them in silence. Or talk to them and tell them, I understand what you're going through. That tiny bit of act of kindness can make a huge difference in someone's world. Huge difference. I didn't write this. This is from from Hebrew literature, biblical literature, that says that the highest form of wisdom is kindness. This is my religion right here. Not necessarily Judaism, kindness. Thank you.
Mr. Hertz, don't go.
Okay.
I would like everyone's participation. This is where you're going to help me out this morning. At this time, it is my distinct pleasure to present to you on behalf of the National Academy Foundation, Miami-Dade County Public Schools, and the Career and Technical Education Programs with this certificate of appreciation.
Thank you. Very much. Really appreciate it. Very nice. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay. You also have, I think, a little evaluation piece, and you'll just fill your card out, and then show it. Take care of that.
I'm going to leave business cards in the front for you guys, okay, so we can stay in touch.